All right, welcome to another episode of the LogiCast. My name is BlankaKong. I'm joined by the usual panelists, Mr. Esoteric, How Wolf, Gunner Eos. Today's topic is going to be about nerd culture and what it was like back then for us growing up, and what it's like now, and how different it is in terms of accepting certain hobbies or certain pastimes like video gaming, manga, comic books, toy collecting, drawing, you name it. I can remember a time where, and Wolf can attest to this because he was here, or he was around for that. Um, Back then, in high school, we played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, the card game. For those who aren't familiar, and it was not exactly an accepted hobby. It was actually looked down upon, and it was not accepted at all, which was fine. But it's funny now. I see. It feels like everybody and their mother plays Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Because the game is available through mobile, and like a lot of people play it. Like, and not just people, like, air quotes, the stereotypical nerd. It's also just like, people who just seem more normal than anything, or people of different walks of life, and they're like, yeah, I love Yu-Gi-Oh, and I'm like, you play Yu-Gi-Oh, really? Okay. um so it's just funny how that all works, and there are more examples, but that's just one example I wanted to kind of throw out there, is how different things are, and how more tolerant, I guess, or just accepting people are in general of hobbies like that. I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh anymore. I retired a long time ago. Stopped playing in 2008, 2009, and I haven't really played since. Not because I don't want to. It's just the game has changed and it just doesn't feel the same. So I just kind of moved over to other things. But with that being said, what are some examples that you guys want to share, or personal stories on kind of like nerdy things that you used to do that was maybe shunned, or you were made fun of for, that are now just more mainstream and more accepted?
Okay, so I'll start it up. I remember when I was in high school, like early high school, like freshman year. I used to read a lot of manga, and back then, manga wasn't really something that was seen as worthwhile reading material. Comic books at the time were way more accepted. People knew, Superman comics, Batman comics, and such. But Japanese comics, everybody assumed it was porn. It was like, oh, you're reading Japanese comics. No, you're reading pornography. Come on, let's stop playing around. And I had to constantly tell people like, no, it's a story. It's kind of written in the same way as comic books are. You read from different sides, from left to right as opposed to right to left, which blew a lot of people in high school's mind because they thought I didn't know how to read. I actually got that as like, bro, you're reading the book the wrong way. And it's like, no, that's how you read manga. But so yeah, definitely manga. And it was hard to find. It wasn't like it is now where you could just get on Amazon and buy a whole, like, all the One Piece manga and have that shipped next day shipping to your house. Like, I had to get, back then there were more bookstores. There was Borders, which doesn't exist anymore, and Barnes and Nobles, which is still kicking around. I had to go there to get manga, and their manga sections were super tiny, always in a corner. And yeah, to be honest, before I stopped giving a shit, I used to kind of feel embarrassed as a kid going to the the Borders bookstore and going into the little tiny manga ad to find something new or continue a series that I was reading, because people would see it's like, oh, that's not reading. You need to read some Hemingway and Tolkien. That's reading. But people didn't see manga as reading material. They just saw it as weird foreign comics. Now, fast forward to 2022, everybody and their sister's brother is fucking reading manga. Like, like I said, you can get the entire anthology series of things like One Piece and Bleach and Naruto on Amazon. Next day shipping, sold from Amazon themselves. Plenty of manga are now officially coming west through different publishers, and you see people on the train or around the city where I live reading manga. It's no different than reading Captain America or Spider Man now. So it's just funny to see how manga was taken as some really niche reading thing that everybody always assumed it was. I'm reading some dirty, you know, Japanese smut to how it is now, where everybody's reading manga and manga's easily accessible. Anybody can get into it. So yeah, that's my first story. It was tough back in the day, getting manga. It was tough to get it in the U.S. Not a lot of places had them, and always had the stigma of being that kid who was reading the weird book the wrong way that doesn't know how to read. So that's my first little blast from the past, nerd culture related.
I can completely get behind that. There's a lot of things within nerd culture that people back then frowned upon that they praise today. Um, so I'm gonna start by saying, like, I'm gonna preface this as in our generation, there wasn't like the internet was growing, so our vast knowledge of what's happening in the world, it was pretty much minute back then. So my stories are geared upon what was happening within my circle, my experiences. So with that being said, I'm gonna start by saying, well, I kind of got lucky growing up because my household was full of um, individuals who played games. Sometimes my mom would, my sister, which back then, girls got laughed at for playing video games or, got joked on. It was an uncommon practice, where as of now it's glorified. Like women are
Oh,
making
gaming
buku bucks.
girls, yeah.
Yeah, like they're making buku dollars and in cosplay and fucking just playing games in general, looking good and playing while they do it. Um, yeah, so I go back in time to say back then it was, you know, it wasn't the norm. It was normal for me because again, my sister, my mother, my aunt, like we would all just play games within the household. Um, so to see like some of my sister's friends come in is like, oh, you play video games? What the hell are you doing? It's like this is what I do. I like doing it. It could have been due to the fact that she had she has three brothers, so maybe that's what kind of swayed her hobby for video games. Um, but yeah, that's what was going on within that time. Like it was weird for a girl to play games. I would say another story would be wearing certain attire. Like I would have video game shirts and go to school, and it's like, what the hell are you wearing? This is ridiculous or whatever. And yeah, I would get joked on, but I still appreciated what I wore. I still liked what I wore. I don't give a shit. I beat to my own drum. Um, but I do say that this was something that people didn't really appreciate back then that they do now. Like you'll see a lot of people who are privy to the big three in terms of anime, the Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, Bleach. Back then, I was watching that shit. Like I had to rush home from school to catch Toonami to watch it at 5 o'clock. Like I was, they would have reruns over the summer, and then when school started, they would have the new season. Like I'm sure you guys are familiar with that Toonami and watching the new episodes of Dragon Ball Z that launched in September. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, like things like that. I have it's a wide array of things. I dipped and dabbled in comic books, gaming, anime, all tons of like shit that was considered nerd but mainstream now. Um, but it's just I don't know. It's just very weird to see what caused such a transition. What swayed people's mindset from that. And I know I'm going on a tangent right now. It just really blows my mind that the things that I and my sister were ridiculed for doing, it just blew up and became like something so common. Um, I
I
guess
mean,
we'll discuss that,
I just like very
later.
quickly before we give Wolf's input. I think it's kind of like a lot of trends and a lot of things that blew up. It could have been just like a movie star or an influencer, because that's kind of the time when YouTube influencers and the early versions of streamers that we know today on things like Justin TV before that became Twitch kind of started making that more mainstream, because once the internet started becoming more of a easily accessible tool for a lot of people, you see people playing an anime game like a Bleach game, and they go like, what the heck is Bleach? What is this? That's not to wash clothes. And then kind of like a lot of things kind of got popular through, we use the word a lot, the influencer. So I think that's kind of kind of where that trend of anime and manga and games kind of being cool. But anyway, just well, Wolf, what are your kind of like thoughts on this?
Well, there you have it. He doesn't have much thoughts to. He probably stepped away for a few moments, so we'll wait till he gets back.
Oh, dead.
He
Oh,
probably had a connectivity issue, but that's okay.
yeah, yeah.
Come back.
No, I was saying that for me it was the comic books and the Spider-Man and the Iron Man and the Superman and the Batman comic books. Like when I was growing up, I used to collect before I got into Yu-Gi-Oh, my stepbrother actually used to have a lot of Marvel collectible cards, which gave like the character, and then it gave the bios of the characters.
Oh, okay. I believe you're talking about the Overpower Marvel
I
card. Yeah.
I guess so. I didn't really know what they were. They just looked really nice to me, and I used them as catalysts to enhance my art, to practice drawing with. Anyways, I would take them to school with me because he had them in this little plastic hard case stacked on each other, and I would take it to school with me. So while I'm drawing, I'm using those cards as a catalyst to for whatever character I'm drawing or anything like that. And there were some kids who would even go as far as taking the cards off the desk as I'm, because I didn't put the whole stack on the desk. If I felt like drawing Spider-Man, I would take his card out, put it next to the paper, and just copy the art over, drawing the art over. Then there would be kids that they'll take the cards off of the desk, or they'll touch it, or and then I'll have to get extremely defensive over the card because really, in retrospect, it's not mine. It were my stepbrothers. I just had them. So I didn't really want anything happening to them. And I used to be ridiculed for having those cards. And now, because of, Disney, I guess Marvel Studios, now everybody is all of a sudden a Spider-Man fan.
Yeah.
People of my age group. Are now all of a sudden they have their inputs on what the Batman movies are, or does the last guy who played Superman was a good was good for the role or not. Now everybody they want to express their ability to give an opinion on a culture or a topic or interest that but so small a few people once had. Like it's just been like everybody feels like watching the Spider-Man movie, they all of a sudden know everything about Spider-Man and Peter Parker and his origin. So everybody all of a sudden feels like they can, what's your favorite superhero? Batman, because he's cool. Really? you know, like really? Like that's as deep as it's going to get, really. So it's like for me, I went from being the kid who wore the glasses, was stuck in the corner of the classroom by himself, didn't really care to talk to anybody as of yet. This is before I met Kong as a friend. Constantly drawing comic book characters to enhance my art skills. Um, like that nerdy kid who likes comic books. And now comic book movies are coming out every day. Every single day, I feel like a new comic book movie dropped in the theaters. That's just how I feel. I saw the panel for what Marvel Studios have in plan for the next set of Marvel movies for the next maybe like 5 years, and it's like that's another additional 15 movies or something like that they're adding to their roster of comic book movies. And I'm getting people like, say, like for instance, my coworkers who are, they like, oh, I went to see Doctor Strange. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty interesting movie. Well, can you tell me a little about Doctor Strange? Do you know anything about the character? Do you even know where his powers come from? Yeah, he's like a sorcerer or like he does magic with a and it's like, did you watch the movie because it was a movie and everybody else was watching the movie, or did you watch the movie because you actually like Doctor Strange as a character in the Marvel setting? Like, I don't really understand where this is going with this, and that's what really annoys me with how the nerd culture has changed recently, because it's like I feel like what I held to possessive to myself, what was a huge part of me and my development in being a human being, is now being watered down to be accessible to everybody else who has no real care or who's taking this media for granted. I
Oh
don't know.
yeah, that no,
Yeah.
that is definitely happening. I mean, you said it with the Marvel stuff. I'll be the first to admit I didn't know anything about the Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't know their place in the Marvel world, so to speak. But I didn't act like I did. A lot of people all of a sudden become, oh my god, I love Groot. He's my favorite character ever. Don't fucking know a damn thing about him. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh yeah, they're so cool. I'm like, I'll just admit, like, from what I saw in the movie was entertaining. That's it. That the movie in microcosm of the movie in itself was entertaining. But now a lot of people, like you said, are starting to claim that oh man, I love comic books. I love superheroes. I love supervillains. And then when you try to pick their brain to see what they like, they'll just name off every Marvel and DC movie that's come out in the last decade. So they're just, I don't want to use the word. I don't even know if it's a word people use nowadays. You can tell they're posers. Like yeah, I might be dated. Sorry, no cap. You know what I'm saying? Um, but you can tell when they list off just the stuff that has come out: Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, blah blah blah. Then you know where they're at. And but you know, I will kind of to pivot to the other side of things. I will say that it becoming a little bit more mainstream. If we look at manga, like I started off my little segment, because manga has become more popular. The good thing about it is now I don't have to walk into a corner in a Barnes and Noble somewhere, and I only have three manga series to choose from because they dedicated one bookshelf. Now, because manga has exploded, we're getting all types of manga. We're getting slice of life, RPG type manga, the whole gambit, all the genres you could possibly want from manga, because manga has a ton of genres. And now you go into a Barnes and Nobles, and like they have whole rows dedicated to manga, because even they started to see, wow, a lot of people are coming in for manga. We don't have a lot. Let's change that. Let's start ordering and getting some in. So now you see it's kind of reversed, that manga hasn't overtaken traditional reading. I'm not gonna be that facetious, but manga has definitely become more popular where it has more presence now. And because of that, I have more options to read. It's easier for me to get these things. I can get official prints from Japan, just translated over to English of any up and coming or traditional or old school manga series that I want. So I will say that that's a positive for that for manga becoming more popular in the West. It's now I don't have to struggle so hard to get this. And I'm not even talking about if you go the digital route. If you go the digital route, God bless, you have thousands of volumes to choose from. I'm more of a hardcore, hardcover, physical book kind of guy, so I have to get the physical book in my hand. But you know, if you're a manga fan now, old school, I mean, now you're in the best position to be because you could just have thousands upon thousands of volumes brought to you literally at a fingertip now. So that's one positive I'll give for nerd culture in the manga sense becoming a bit more mainstream.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's a positive across the board where, the nerd culture becoming more mainstream brought that level of positivity because then they'll push out more content because, ideally these are companies. They're not pushing out this content for their health. They're trying to make bucks. They're trying to, make a profit off of this. So obviously if 10 people, if it goes from 5 people buying their comic books to 10 people buying their comic books, they don't give a flying rat's ass if those other 5 people know anything about their characters or even care about their characters to begin with, and it's just doing it just because everybody else is doing it. They don't really care. They just want their money. So, and as long as they're being provided the money, they're going to continue to push the content. So we can look at it in the sense of where, like, I am glad that that they Marvel Studios took to the next level and gave me the Iron Man movies, as Iron Man is one of my favorite Marvel characters, but not because Marvel Studios turned him, well, found the best possible actor to play Tony Stark, but then, made a great character out of him in the Marvel Studios lineup. No, I've always loved Iron Man, even when he was in that old school style costume or suit of armor, his Mark One armor in the older comic books. I've always loved the fact that Tony Stark was a human character who dealt with human issues. I like some other rich human character who deals with no issues, but he was a rich person, or he is a rich character that deals with actual human issues. I'm talking from societal issues to personal issues like being a drunk or being or getting caught up in his own hubris of how powerful he can be mentally and financially. Tony Stark went through it all in all sorts of different scenarios in his comic books, which obviously wasn't really touched upon too much in Marvel Studios for specific reasons.
Right.
I would assume, right?
I assume they
So,
just want to get to the action and the explosion.
right, exactly, action and explosions.
Yeah.
And it's so when I'm talking to someone else or when I'm now dealing with it, as an older gentleman who had to grow, I had to grow and evolve my mindset to be comfortable with what I like. And now that I've had to go through that mental change, I've had to go through that maturity, I forced myself into that because at some point, there were points in my life where I felt like because I liked playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And because I liked playing video games and because I liked comic books, that I would not be accepted into society. And that's just the way it is. So I clung to people who was in that field very tightly. Like once I found out that Kong was into Yu-Gi-Oh when we started high school, I didn't really care to make friends with anybody else because I knew that he liked what I like, and then that I can have better conversations with this person because I can be myself with this person. Um, so I had to go through that transition for myself and evolve myself into being comfortable with what isn't normal. And now that I've gone to this transition, and now that I'm in this mindset where it's like, well, fuck you, I don't really care if you like what I like or don't like what I like. I mean, if you don't like what I like and you want to make fun of me about it, now it just feels like, oh well, everybody is now jumping in the pool because, somebody else did. Like it's just like it just feels like all this mindset, the mindset I had to develop is now kind of like a slap to the back of my head because it's like, well, eventually there are people who claim to be Iron Man fans, even if it's not as deep as I like Iron Man.
Right.
So it's
Right.
just
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
that really irks my nerve in that regard of. So I do understand that it does bring positivity by them mainstreaming it allows them to push out more content, which means more Iron Man, for example. For me, that's great. Like what they did with Monster Hunter, right? Monster Hunter is now mainstream.
That's a great example. Yeah.
Right, Monster Hunter is now mainstream, but because Monster Hunter is now mainstream, we're getting more content for Monster Hunter than we would ever get in the past, which is great for me. I love that. But if I talk to 10 people right now who play Monster Hunter, chances are they use longsword. It's like at this point, are you playing Monster Hunter?
Fun fact: 1 in 10 Monster Hunter players are longsword users.
That
You know?
and
And
it's go ahead, Wolf, finish.
and just to wrap up my point, it's just more like this was it went from being still on the Monster Hunter topic. It went from being like this one video game that I had with my close knit friends in this small community where because because we knew it was a small community, there was a lot of love that went into it. There was a lot of passion. So we didn't it wasn't like, like, okay, well, um we didn't attack each other on playing this game, right? We embraced it. We embraced other people for the most part, who was willing to try Monster Hunter. I think we got our whole class involved, our whole college class involved in well, all the guys really involved in Monster Hunter at one point, and we enjoyed that part of it because we was like, okay, well, this is already a small community. More a little more people are coming in. We can talk to them. We can teach them. We can have these conversations where it's just like it's on a deeper level because of the love that we have for this particular franchise. And now with everything being mainstream and the internet being available to me every goddamn day, I feel like I'm just now getting these people that's just like, well, are you even grateful for what you have now? Like, do you know the struggles that we did? You know that greatsword never used to charge, and you're bitching that greatsword doesn't charge fast enough.
Mm.
Like, like it doesn't. It kind of kills that love of the that I have of any given media that would be considered nerd culture, because now everybody has, they express the fact that just like how they have assholes, they have opinions. So it's just like, great. Now my love for this media is being watered down because it needs to be given to everybody else. It's just like it kind of sucks for me.
No, I definitely get where you're coming from, and in your reference to like the proverbial like pool that you mentioned earlier,
Mm.
my thing is this, right? I I don't mind that a lot of people are coming into, well, let me rephrase. A lot of people who are coming into the things that we loved in the past is kind of like a double-edged sword. So, by business perspective, the more people that are interested in what you're interested in or what you're producing, rather, they tend to make more of, which is great for us, because we get more of what we originally liked to begin with. But where the double-edged sword comes in, I feel like with the more people that appreciates the things that I like, I feel like I'm losing more of my identity, so to speak. I feel like my identity is becoming a little like it's becoming more and more common, if that makes any sense. So like for example, in the past, I'm pretty sure all of you have like partaken in this with the games, with the memorabilia, with the shirts and whatnot. Nowadays, everybody and their mother are wearing the same type of styles that we had. You know what I'm saying? The video game shirts, like, oh, I was a big Samus Aran fan. Now everybody, just as a reference, just as a, just to refer to, I don't think everybody is a Samus fan, but there are a lot more today than there were back then. Um, I, I don't know. It's hard for me to articulate, but I just feel that because of all these people who are entering in our hobbies, into our realm, we're losing more of ourselves because they're sharing or at least attempting to share the same type of passion. It's kind of like, how can I explain it if I could put it into analogy? Like, you know, um, artists who put pencil to paper, and now ever since technology blew up, people who are digital artists, not saying that they're not adept at what they like, knowing how to draw. You still have to learn, but they got it a lot easier because of the shit that they're capable of doing with a computer. It's like they get more praise for that, if that makes any sense.
Mm.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I know
like
I
the
didn't articulate it as well as I wanted to,
right. I think what you get is
but
like the double-edged sword of something becoming more mainstream, right? Like Wolf said, it's great that Monster Hunter has become more mainstream because for a bit there, I'm not, I don't think I'm the only one that thought this. I I thought Monster Hunter was done. I thought, with Generations, that was it, right? They were going to give us Generations, a game packed with every monster up until now, and either Monster Hunter was going to kind of fizzle out or was just going to kind of remain a Japanese exclusive. And then, a guy, then Monster Hunter blows up in America or the West, I should say, with World, and now for a fact we're gonna get Monster Hunter stuff, good or bad. We had a Netflix Monster Hunter movie, we had a live action Monster Hunter movie. You only get that when something's popular enough to kind of warrant that. And now, without a shadow of a doubt, we are going to get the next slate of Monster Hunter games. Like it's just without a doubt. Whether what platform
Mm.
it's going to be on, that's another story. But the West is getting a Monster Hunter game, so that's great for guys like us who fucking we had to get hacked PlayStation portables to fucking play Monster Hunter because we just didn't get a Monster Hunter that year. It just never showed up. But again, the double-edged sword aspect, where now it is popular. Now you have people going, "Oh my god, is all you do charge with greatsword? So boring. Gun lance, all you do is poke with it? So boring.
yeah, I want to
Longsword
use the
though,
fancy shit.
woo! Charge blade, look at these explosions, switch axe. Oh my god, I'm switching this thing. I can't control all the switching I'm doing." And it's like, you weren't there when it was just, again, old man shakes fist at cloud, but you weren't in the trenches back then. We're dealing with 10 frame rates and we're trying to hunt a Rathalos that stays in the air for 20 days. Like,
Yeah,
Yep.
and what makes it funny and is that with more people who weren't super like Monster Hunter or nerd culture enthusiasts, the conversations become more disingenuous, and you seem to see that in all aspects of nerd culture when, like, for example, to your reference about Monster Hunter, um the people who are like actual Monster Hunter advocates who've played from the initial stages of it to what it's now, you see their appreciation for the different weapons. Whereas the people who are just coming in because the game became more appealing and it caught their eye, it's like, I want the flashiest shit possible. They probably tried Charge Blade, but Charge Blade probably was too complex for them. So they went to Longsword or they went to Dual Swords. And with us, it's like, okay, well, I may not have played Hunting Horn, but I appreciate Hunting Horn because of what it did for me. And I appreciate Kong playing the weapon because it had not only a steep learning curve, but we also reaped the benefits as a collective when it came to
Mm.
hunts and things like that.
When I started Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, or as we started it as Monster Hunter 2G in Japanese, I considered the hunting horn as the best weapon in the game. Because if he didn't use that weapon, I felt like a lot of our fights as newbies to the series would have gone so left that we would have probably just been a little more frustrated than we already had to be, dealing with the nonsense, as in like taking a potion and flexing for 5 seconds, which is a long time in one Monster Hunter fight. So it's like, for me, I've always understood and appreciated that weapon. I always believed that weapon to be the best weapon in the game. I still believe that it no longer is really technically. It kind of killed my belief, because now you can do so much stuff in it in Monster Hunter as a player, that is like, well, needing the hunting horn can become questionable. But I still love the fact that whenever I play with Kong, or I get a good player with a hunting horn in the quest, I appreciate that. That's 4 to 5 skills that I probably won't have on my armor, that person is providing for me. And that's the thing for me, is that it starts to kill the spirit of the game. Like that, starting off with a game like Monster Hunter that became mainstream, for example, there's something that you love about those type of games that are considered niche, or games that don't have that much popularity to it, such as, for you guys, it would be, Dark Souls, Demon Souls. There was something there in that game that everybody else rejected at first, that you guys, that pulled you towards it. And as games come out, or from that title, and it becomes more and more mainstream, my opinion of it is that that spirit, that soul that created that game, that love that you would have for that video game, is being diluted. It's just disappearing, right? Like, you guys love Elden Ring, I'm pretty sure you do, but would you say that Elden Ring carries the same spirit that Dark Souls carried when you first played it? Did it wow you in a sense that Dark Souls wowed you when you first played it? Because as much as I love Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, and I think it's probably, or lining up to be, one of my favorite Monster Hunter games, period, it still didn't carry that spirit that Monster Hunter 2G carried when I first started playing it. It doesn't even carry the excitement that I had when I was playing Generations, with the final boss being the praying mantis and whatnot. So it's just like, do
Well,
you guys feel like, would you guys say that like, anything that is mainstream now, the spirit of it or the love of it is being, well, the reason as to why you would love it is being diluted by it becoming mainstream, if that makes
I
sense as a question?
I would say it depends. Like, if it's a single player game and a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon, so to speak, um, I think if the game still holds true to its original form, like in my opinion, Elden Ring has done that exceptionally well. Like, the From Software games have done that and maintain what each game is, as a collective. Um, I personally, I can speak for myself, did not lose faith because it delivered what it was supposed to from beginning to end. From me playing, because I didn't play old Demon Souls, I played the new one. From me playing Dark Souls 1 to 3, playing Sekiro, playing Bloodborne, they all held true to like what it was supposed to be as a collective, in terms of the difficulty, in terms of the ambiguity when it came to the lore, in terms of the options that you had with creating builds and utilizing stamina for every freaking thing that you did in the game. So it didn't lose face with me in that perspective. I feel like with, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wolf, I could be wrong. I feel like with the games that are becoming mainstream, I feel like what could have a tendency of us losing face would fall under the umbrella of the co-op games in Monster Hunter. Like, for example, there weren't a lot of, well, I didn't encounter a lot of longsword users from my time of playing Try and then playing 2. Well, I wouldn't have, because with 2 it was us as a collective playing, as opposed to like World and Rise. Um, that kind of would, I feel, would stray for me, because of the fact that a lot of people are using longsword, so I would get like 2 people in a mission, and it forces me to use a gem so I don't get tripped every goddamn time. Um, Whereas with Elden Ring, you have or any of the Souls games, you have the option to PvP, play with people, play by yourself. With that, I would say the conversations had with people who are now getting into um, the From Software games, that's where we're kind of like fall short. Like you could tell the difference between someone who just started Elden Ring and started on Elden Ring, and versus somebody who's been playing from the beginning. Um, if I answered your question, if that makes any sense.
I want to hear from everybody else.
So, y'all said a lot there. I'm gonna try and respond to everything. So the answer, and to try and like kind of reel it back into the topic. Um, to answer your initial question, Wolf, about Elden Ring kind of satisfying that same like butterfly feeling that I got maybe with the first Dark Souls game and the first Demon Souls game, the answer is yes. It definitely satisfied that that desire. As far as like Monster Hunter is concerned, Hunting Horn is absolutely not the best weapon in the game, and never was. Even in Monster Hunter 2, Longsword is king. If you want to, I mean, I don't have any like stats or graphs to like show you why, but I know, not for a fact, but
Well, statistically,
I am
right.
more than positive that Longsword is the best performing weapon
So
in that game.
I don't think Hunting Horn is the best weapon in the game in Monster Hunter across the board at all, statistically speaking. What I meant by it being the best weapon, in my opinion, was
It was the
if you
best
didn't
weapon.
use
It was a great weapon for the group.
right,
It was a good
exactly,
addition to the dynamic. But I
exactly,
want to
yeah.
be clear, for anybody listening, like,
Mhm.
oh, this guy said the hunting horn is the best weapon in Monster Hunter 2. He's fucking crazy.
Well, let
It's
me show you the
it's
facts
Yeah.
of the speed runs.
it's absolutely not. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
Second, as far as Sunbreak is concerned, like, yup, I know Gunnar and I think all of you have played with me enough Sunbreak to where I have stayed away from spoilers as much as I could, and I tried to experience the game as like as authentic as possible, air quotes. And y'all heard me, we would Discord chat, and y'all would hear me get excited, like fighting new stuff and like seeing old areas and things like that. So for me, it's like little things like that. Still, there's still magic there for me. Maybe not for some of you, and that's fine. But for me, I still get they do enough to where it's like it still tickles those same muscles that it used to. And to tie it back to the main topic of nerd culture then versus now, I think people are fickle. So, one day it's gonna be this is the sick new hotness, right? Whether that be music, movies, or entertainment in general. And then the next day that shit is old news. It's bottom of the charts, nobody cares anymore. That's just how society is. At least in the modern day, and maybe it always has been that way. I don't know. Um, and as far as like these mediums or these hobbies becoming mainstream, there's definitely positive and negatives that come with that, right? And the negatives that I think you guys have alluded to is that the content gets what we would consider diluted, right? It's like this is a watered down drink. This Long Island iced tea used to be really good back in the day, but now it's more water than anything else. I don't taste the alcohol anymore. That's kind of what like some content feels like. With the Marvel movies, it feels diluted. It's like, it's not as
Yeah, big
special
time.
anymore. With video games, it's like, it's diluted. It's not as special anymore. And part of that is the quality, and another part is the expansion of the community. There are just more people in the community now, and so for some people, it's a question of, I don't feel special anymore because now this is no longer my thing. And in other cases, it's, well, the content just isn't as good, right? And I think maybe there's a little bit of column A and column B here in this group. I don't know. I can't speak for y'all, but that's what I think it is. And it can be unfortunate. I just try to take the wins where I can. When it comes to Monster Hunter, it's still a good game, and it still has, in my opinion, the heart and soul of what Monster Hunter games are. It's changed a bit, and I wish it would go back in certain respects, but you can't have it all. So I'll take the little bit that I do get and enjoy it for what it's worth while I have it, because it won't last forever.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can
I
definitely
got
get behind
yeah.
that.
I'll answer Wolf's question about the Elden Ring thing. Yeah, Elden Ring definitely still kind of brought me back to um I'm gonna say Dark Souls because I never really played Demon Souls to completion. Uh, because funny enough, this ties in back into nerd culture. I had to import that game, so it was hard to play it because I was playing the Japanese version of it. Because I thought we were never gonna get that game in the West. Eventually, we did, but I didn't know that. So when it relation to Dark Souls, which was my first one that I played to completion, yeah, Elden Ring still gave me that because it gave it to me in different ways. It was just like, to me, it was a refreshing breath of fresh air from the amount of cluttered open world handholdy games that we've been seeing for the past couple of years. So in that regard, for a different reason for me personally, yeah, Elden Ring still gave me that feeling that Dark Souls gave me. And so what Kong was talking about, yeah, yeah, if I'm going to be completely honest, which I try to be, yeah, I'm going to say it is a little bit of the column A and column B. It is a little bit of like, oh man, I remember back then where I can count the number of people that I knew played Monster Hunter on one hand. And, if I wanted to search up, what Attack Up Extra Large did, I had to fucking dig in the proverbial internet fucking heap to find the information that I needed because there was no set builders, there was no set calculators, nobody was data mining any of the data for Monster Hunter. Like no one cared. So yeah, a little bit of it is like that. I was there during the dark times, and now we got the new kids, the young bunch coming in and going, well, I calculated my set builder on this website, and now I can get attack up, weakness exploit, and blah blah blah. Like I didn't have that. And column B is like, I'm kind of glad these people aren't in here because it might dilute the game a little bit. It might casualize or normalize or streamline certain things. But because of these people, as long as they have a baseline respect for what in this case Monster Hunter is, or if we go to comic movies or manga, whatever the case may be, as long as you have like a baseline level of respect for it, then hey, look, welcome in, welcome to the club. There's more of us. That means hopefully we get to see this thing that I've loved for a long time, and this guy over here is just starting to love. So to just round out my point, yeah, it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of like back in my day, but it's also a little bit of what new people. As long as they're respectful, it can't hurt for them to be in this genre, this medium that I love so much.
That yeah, I can definitely see that. And I just want to let the viewers know, like, we're not talking about people who are newly introduced at a game based upon like a time frame or whatever. We're talking about the people who feel as though that they come into a particular genre, a particular game, a particular group, and they feel like after a couple of days they know more than the people who initially been playing the game from start. You know what I'm saying? People like that. Because there are people, for example, my nephews who are quite young, they're able to like play not only Monster Hunter Rise, but revert back and play the old school games and have an appreciation for that. And we can actually have genuine conversations regarding the transition from the old game to the new game, as opposed to people who just play Rise and they feel like they know everything about what Monster Hunter, delivers. And then also, as you can see, we love Monster Hunter, so we always use that as a reference, as in, So just want
But
to let you guys know that.
it's even as well as those who, when, like those who are, who wanted to be a part of that crowd that ridiculed nerd culture, because at that time in the past nerd culture was niche or not as accepting into society as it is now. Those are the same, or some of them are the same people who are now all of a sudden into the
Yeah.
nerd culture space.
Or trying to seek
But
validation to the original OGs of nerd culture.
but those were the very kids that you went to school with that you looked down upon, because yes, ideally speaking, if you're a part of nerd culture, you'd be a little, I'm gonna say, shy to be around other people, or introverted to be around, introverted. You'll be a little more introverted than normal. Um, and
Yeah.
those introverts were the ones that had to deal with the bullies who made fun of them because they like to play Yu-Gi-Oh, or they like to play Pokemon, or because those guys were the ones that was always, in the corner looking at, their cartoon, their animated drama, as what you can call anime, right? Animated drama, because anime characters do some crazy shit.
Yeah.
So those are the same guys now, and they all, like, as time went on, all of a sudden they want to be, it went from being that popular clique of where it was cool to make fun of the uncool kids or the nerd kids, to now being cool. Like, those nerd kids are now cool. They're the cool kids. Like, they're walking around with My Hero shirts, or Dragon Ball Z hats, and it's like, can you spell Goku to be a fan of Goku? Like,
Yeah, GOKO.
this
You.
is it's like, those are like, there are people who went through that, and those are the people I feel like have true appreciation for, and were more honest in what their interests were. um I'm sorry, but I'm just going to put it out there. I just feel like if you jump on the bandwagon of something, then you're just not an honest person to yourself. I'm
Yeah,
going to
there,
say that,
yeah, there,
so.
yeah, yeah. There,
But
there.
go
I
on,
would.
go on, sorry.
I'm
Mm.
sorry, Wolf. I was gonna say, to your point, they're the type of people, like, you have you have Nick fans and then you have Nick fans. You have the ones who are like, when the Knicks win, that's when they're like, oh my God, I've always been a Knicks fan. I love the Knicks. And then you have the Knicks fans who are like Spike Lee, who watch them whether they win or lose. You know, the cool kids of our era that weren't dabbling into the nerd culture were the Knicks fans who joined them when they won. So now that our hobbies are quote unquote winning, they're now joining these said hobbies and, acting as if they've loved it this entire time. And I think that's the issue that I have with people like that, because I don't want any of the viewers to get it twisted that, like, we're not welcoming of people who are interested in this realm that we've been in practically our entire lives. I just want them to know, like, we kind of have, well, I'll
A
speak for myself.
territorial standard.
Yeah, we have a territorial standard, and a slight disdain to people who come into things that we've liked our entire lives and try to think that they're running shit. Like, bro, we've been here. Like, we've earned our stripes within this realm that we in. Like, we've faced the ridicule, we faced, the controversy, like, oh, games are dumb. They're dumbing people down, like, or dumbing kids down. They shouldn't be playing. Like, we've been through all of that, and I feel like some of these new people don't appreciate or I mean, they don't have to appreciate what we've been through. Let me make that be clear. But they strut as if they've done the things that we've done, or have experienced the thing that we've did over a short span of the time that they've started to enjoy it. So that's my issue with those individuals who those Knicks fans who pretend to be actual fans.
Can't argue with that.
That's just what I'm saying is like, and then you get those who are not actually interested in the media whatsoever, but they get on certain streaming services with a shortcut shirt and make money off of it. That's another thing too that
That's a whole
annoys me.
nother topic, right? Like the people who
Yeah,
exploit it as
yeah,
as an opportunistic business
opportunity.
strategy.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Those people, as far as I'm concerned, can go jump off a cliff. We're not even talking about those people. But yeah, that being said, any closing thoughts? Because we're about out of time.
I mean, all I ask is that if you get into whatever medium, books, manga, miniatures, and whatever that was considered nerdy and not cool, just show a little respect. Don't desire it to cater to your specifications. Like, you're coming in to a fandom, regardless of what fandom it is. You're coming into it, so just show a little respect. And people, trust me, people will welcome you into a fandom if you're legitimately interested in it. Don't be scared of trying and reading or doing something new. Just, if it's been around longer than you, just kind of respect where it's coming from. That's my closing thought.
I agree.
Yeah. And if you were to be that person, just keep that shit to yourself. Don't act like you know everything, and don't act like you was in a gym around the same time that we were. Just show your appreciation if you're coming in. Um, humble yourself. That's all I gotta say. Just a little bit of humble pie can take you a long way.
Indeed.
Well, that could be said about us too, right? Like,
Oh,
to
absolutely.
not be elitist and not push people out and not use circumstance like the current circumstances as an opportunity to get revenge or vengeance. I think that's important to point out too. So, my solution
Absolutely.
is simply just kind of worry about myself and just kind of do me, and not really concern myself about what other people are doing. I tend to sleep better at night, so that's just my general closing thoughts, and we'll wrap it up there. So, for those listening, thank you for listening. Appreciate the time. If you've enjoyed this video, leave a like, drop a comment, let us know what you think. If you think we're complete morons and we got it all wrong, let us know. If you agree, let us know. Dislike the video if you disliked it, because I like seeing that ratio either way. I don't really care personally. Subscribe for more content. We do podcasts every week. We publish on every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard. So subscribe so that you're alerted of that. We also do 2-minute reviews. We also do some long form gameplay videos that's on the channel as well. I stream under BlankaKong on Twitch. Follow me there for when I go live. I'm not exactly consistent, so you've been warned. However, Mr. Esoteric streams on the main channel. He is very consistent. He streams every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. So check him out there on Twitch, Logical Gamers TV. We also have a few social media outlets. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We also have a TikTok, and we also run a Discord. All the links will be in the description down below if you are interested in following us in any of those platforms. Thank you again, guys. Have a good night. Great conversation. We'll catch you in the next one.
Till next time.
Peace.